Hello everybody, this is Toys R Us, and for this special figure showcase and review we're going to be looking at the 1988 Japanese exclusive Sparkabots figure. This is Guzzle. So yeah, that's going to cause some confusion straight away. So what we're going to do in this video, we're going to basically explain why he is called Guzzle, and he is not obviously the same as his American counterpart known as Cindersaur, which they do use the same mould, and obviously he's definitely not the same as the Autobot that used the name Guzzle, because in Japan he had a different name, and that was Hardspark. So hopefully I can explain all that in this video, and also of course we can see how he displays in both modes, and I'm going to point out things that you need to be aware of if you're after purchasing one for yourself. So before we start, I'd like to remind anybody, if you're not subscribed to this channel, if you'd like to hit that subscribe button for me now please, because it really will help me out. And this is also the channel if you want to see things like this, Japanese exclusive Generation 1 figures. So yeah, this, as I say, is Guzzle, and all it is, I suppose, for us in the Western world, it is a complete redeco of Cindersaur. And as I say, in Japan in 1988 they still had cartoons, Transformer ones obviously, and the Transformers cartoon was known as Supergod Masterforce, whereas in the rest of the world they'd stopped. And in that particular cartoon they had what we know as the firecons and the sparkabots, which of course are these, but they were all under one bracket. They were known as Sparkabots. So whether you were a Destron, which was the word for Decepticon, or a Cybertron, which was the word for Autobots, they were all under the same banner as Sparkabots. Whereas again, obviously in Hasbro terminology, we've got firecons and sparkabots. So while we've got all these out here, this, as I say, is Guzzle. Let's quickly transform him very carefully now. Unfortunately, I don't think that the sparking gimmick works on this, but as you can clearly see, there is a vast difference here in the color scheme. So we've got green and gray with a yellow face, whereas the Hasbro variant is again striking. It's purple and it's yellow. Now the other confusing thing is, in, as I say, the Supergod Masterforce cartoon, he was this color and he was called Guzzle, but he was this color. They didn't change the colors for the cartoon, whereas with some of the molds that they reused, obviously, like you can see there, and of course the more predominant characters like Minerva for Nightbeat, etc., and Joyride for Ranger, they did change the colors quite drastically. Also, they were packaged very differently in Japan. So this is obviously what you would have seen standard Hasbro. So this is Cindersaur on a bubble, on a card, packaged like so. Whereas in Japan, and I haven't got a boxed example of him, but I've got a boxed example of one of the Sparkabots Autobots. They all came in boxes this particular size. This is, of course, Hardspark's box, which we can see there. It's even got his name at the top. There we go, Hardspark. So he wasn't known as Guzzle at all. Guzzle in Japan was this guy. So again, boxes in Japan came like this, nice and small, but they had things like the robot points on the bottom. They had like the transformation process on the top, on the back, because of course it didn't really need it. And of course, unfortunately, they all had gimmicks. I say unfortunately, it was good that they had gimmicks, but unfortunately that on any of the four that I've got here, none of them work, which is a bit of a crying shame, to be honest. Let's just very quickly then have a quick look at him again compared to the Hasbro version, because he is so simple. There isn't really much more to say about him. I just wanted to give you guys a bit of a story, or I suppose the history behind them, and why they are so different. It is interesting that they did do this, to change the colours, to change the names, etc. But the mould, as you can clearly see, is exactly the same. They just used very vastly different colour schemes. Let's very quickly go back to the alternate mode. Yeah, maybe, and of course they renamed them at the same time. So by doing this, of course, it created the extra characters. Now, the things that you need to be aware of is, obviously I've said the sparking gimmick doesn't really work on this, but that's not going to be too detrimental if you're looking to display him. Things that are going to affect display are things like this, unfortunately, like corroded screws. To be honest, the sticker on here, there's only one sticker we've got, which is on that leg there. The corrosion on the screw here is pretty minimal. I'm quite lucky with this. And indeed the hinge joints here, that's something to be aware of as well. They can can. With it being plastic, it can crack. They can be really quite bad, to be honest. Right, let's see if I can do this without taking them out of the package. Yeah, there we go. So there we can see the huge difference between them. And of course, I didn't mean take him out of the package. I meant use the packaged one and not have to transform him. There we go. Right, final time then. Let's just take him back to robot now, because he came packed in his alternate mode, but I'm going to put him straight in display in this particular mode. So here we have Japanese Guzzle. Just to clarify everything, Hasbro, cindersaur, Hasbro, Guzzle, and indeed Japanese hard spark. But again, if you want to see videos on hard spark and any of the other rare Japanese generation 1 figures, check out the playlists on this channel, and I hope you enjoy them. Let me know in the comments, guys, and take care.